Jakob, Unisport Web TV, and today it's time to start up the engine for the review of the Adidas Nitrocharge 1.0, the second generation that is, which is a boot made for the player who runs and runs and runs and runs, and is made to help him optimize his energy output. But can a football boot actually help you run for longer, and how does the Nitrocharge actually perform? Well, it's time to find out. It's Nitro time. Now, the second generation of the Nitrocharge kinda continued where the first one left off, and Adidas has stayed true to the concept. They still have the hybrid touch forefoot, the Energy Sling and the Energy Pulse technologies, and the protective mesh on the midfoot and the heel. But based on player feedback, they've actually made a few updates to especially the Energy Sling, simply to make the Nitrocharge a better football boot. Fit-wise, the Nitrocharge is really good, simply because it gives you a snug and pretty natural feeling when you put it on, and it kind of follows the shape of your foot while still leaving enough space to not squeeze your foot anywhere and make it feel uncomfortable. Now, the fit is helped along by the Energy Sling, this green and yellow band going across the top of the boot. And the concept is that it keeps your foot locked down on the plate to prevent the energy loss that occurs when your foot slides around in your boot when you twist and turn and accelerate, and thus it should leave you with more energy at the end of the match, is what Adidas says at least. But the thing is that it actually works pretty well in keeping your foot on the plate, and it kind of feels like a seat belt, which gives you a really stable sensation. Yes, the Energy Sling is indeed the most prominent change on the new Nitrocharge, simply because it's been made a bit wider and also moved ever so slightly backwards on the boot. And it actually gives you a bit more of a stable feeling simply because of the increased width. That gives you a fewer pressure points and also gives you a more secure lockdown, I feel. It feels a bit more like in unison with the rest of the boot. Now, the toe box on the Nitrocharge is again made with hybrid touch, which is this material that combines all the good stuff from leather and synthetic. And even though it does feel a bit stiff at first, don't be discouraged, because once you've broken the boot in, it actually softens up a lot. And even though it's not as soft initially as the Adizero or the Predator Instinct, it is also slightly thicker and thus feels a bit more protective. Now, when it comes to protection, the Nitrocharge is a bit of an interesting combination, simply because the boot feels solid and protective, but it's not bulky or clumsy in any way, which is very interesting to play with. And I enjoy going into tackles in this bad boy, which is not something I normally do. Anyway, something I noticed was that Adidas changed the shape of the protective pads. And while it's a good idea that they cover a larger area, I still think that it was better on the first generation with the larger pads on the heel, because right here, where it says Nitrocharge, there's basically no protection. So all in all, the comfort and especially the fit in the Nitrocharge is extremely good. And if you go true to size like I have with these bad boys, you're gonna get a really tight fitting boot that gives you no pressure points, no squeezing, and no sliding around, with just a good solid fit. On the flip side of things, the Soleplate, there's not that much new under the sun, to be honest, because Adidas have continued with their Sprint Frame 2.0 Soleplate and the Energy Pulse under the forefoot. And basically, Energy Pulse is this technology with a nylon bar going in a zigzag-like pattern to give you a bit of a springy effect and eliminate the loss of energy that would occur in a softer Soleplate. And basically, yes, this makes the Soleplate a bit more stiff and rigid, but I don't really feel the difference from this and a non-Energy Pulse Sprint Frame 2.0 Soleplate. So the idea is good and it looks really cool, but yeah, after 90 minutes, I don't feel that much more energy. Now, the Soleplate and the stock configuration itself actually works pretty well without too much fuss, because Adidas have continued with their triangular studs that does a good job combining the good maneuverability from conical studs and the aggressive amount of grip you get from a bladed stud. And while it's not overly good on any of the two, I don't really have anything negative to say about the stock configuration. It just works well. And if you like my coach, it's still there. Now, when there's a football around, the Nitrocharge also does a pretty good job. Simply because the Hybrid Touch toe box is an interesting combination between a rather cushioned and soft feel that you would expect from the leather boot, but it's also got somewhat precision that you would get from a synthetic boot. And combining that with the fact that it's a pretty clean surface and it's got some texture to it, it is a right pleasure to control or dribble in the Nitrocharge. And no, you're not going to be turned into the master dribbler, but they're actually pretty good little tools to make sure that the ball doesn't slip that far away. And it gives a pretty good amount of grip, I'd say. When it comes to shooting, the Nitrocharge actually delivers a quite interesting experience because it feels more solid than it actually is at 245 grams. And it feels a bit like a heavy and sturdy boot where you get this solid backing when you strike the ball, even though it's not bulky at all. Another cool point is that it's a pretty clean striking surface thanks to the off-center lacing. And the toe box is rather pointy, so you can get pretty well under the ball, which is something I really like. And when it comes to grip and adding swerve, yes, there might be these little grooves on the forefoot, and there is a slight amount of grip from the Energy Sling, but don't expect too much in that department. It's not a predator, so you're mostly gonna have to take care of that yourself. Now, all in all, I really like the direction that Adidas have taken the new Nitrocharge. And I think that the updates actually work pretty well, especially the new Energy Sling. And while I'm not so sure about the whole more energy over 90 minutes thing, the boot has an extremely awesome fit. The comfort is good and your foot is being held very well on the plate throughout the match. So if you are looking for a well-fitting, solid boot, the Nitrocharge is definitely worth considering. But what do you think about the new Nitrocharge? And is it something for you as the engine on the team? Well, as always, you can let me know or write down in the comments section below. Because this was all I have for you for today. But as always, we're back again later with more Unisport Web TV. Signing off, cheerio. If you remember, the first generation of the Nitrocharge had this protective mesh that was really tough to clean once dirt got stuck in there. But on the second generation, Adidas seemed to have kind of brushed the mesh so it's a bit more smooth on the surface. And that means that dirt doesn't get stuck as easily. And if it does, you just clean it off. It's easier to clean, hooray!
Sala, please tell me you were filming. Don't tell me you were not.